Hi, I'm Mustafa, and welcome to the very first episode of the School of Growth podcast. With me today is Gloria Brun del Re, one of the most interesting creators I've stumbled upon on my Instagram over the last few months, and also one of the most steadily growing creators. Welcome to the show, Gloria. Nice to have you.
Thank you. Nice for having me. Thank you. I'm excited.
Awesome. Likewise. Um, like I told you before the recording began, the hope with this conversation is that someone who's starting out as a creator and sort of just or has that little voice in their head saying this is something I want to do, I want to put myself out there. Hopefully, someone like that can listen to this conversation and take home something from it, something actionable that they can listen, leave, and execute on immediately. And you are someone who's currently right in the eye of the storm in terms of where you are in your journey. You've got some momentum going, and you've been pretty consistent for a bit now. And I think you've got a format slash vibe slash content pillar that I think you found your sort of space in the online world, especially on Instagram, which is really cool. So I think first question to begin is what made you sort of start creating online? What was that? Was it like a switch that just one day you went, I got to do this, or was it like something you had been contemplating for a while?
That's a really interesting one because it's like sort of both. It's like I've been wanting to post and create stuff for a while now, but I didn't quite figure it out. And I was like, I don't know if that's for me. And I've always been creative, like as a child. I loved to like craft things and like make drawings and stuff. So this is like my nature, but eventually how I started this like with Instagram, it was so random because one night I was falling asleep and I you know this phase when you're just like right before you fall asleep, you're not really conscious but not really asleep yet. And
Yeah.
I was having this I was having this thought of like, oh, I can just make a challenge and I will post every day. And I didn't have a clue. And I was just right the next day, I recorded the first video, like this one where I'm saying like, oh, I'm gonna start a challenge every day. Da, da, da. And this is how it started. Like I never imagined that something would happen, but here we are.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people start off this way. I've seen a lot of people online where they just set themselves a goal of I'm going to do this for 30 days, 6 days, 100 days, or just in perpetuity. Some people say I'm going to do this for the entire year. Was it something you had seen yourself and you thought, let me do the same, or is it just something that came to your head?
I have seen similar things, but I always took inspiration, but what I never did is copy someone. Never. So this is wouldn't it would was never the intention of trying to chase something, but was always the intention of bringing something that's here, like outside of me. Yeah.
And so from the entire time you had this in your head of like I want to put myself out there,
Yeah.
what was stopping you? What made you sit on it for as long as you did and then take the plunge? Well, why wasn't it like day one?
Well, I guess all the things that are stopping us all, right? It's like fear of rejection, fear of judgment, um, not knowing if it will work or how it will work out. Actually, I actually made a video yesterday about this. Like, it sounds so stupid if you don't try new things and you say, I'm not gonna try it because what if it doesn't work? Like, what's the worst possible outcome? Okay, it doesn't work. So what? You have nothing to lose, right?
Is do your friends and family know that you're doing this? Do they follow you? Do they
No.
see your stuff? Right. Okay. So I think that's something a lot of people tend to do, right? Because it's just so much easier when it's just projected to a bunch of strangers who then identify with you, rather than being on this under this burden of people who already know you and want you to fit into some sort of
Yeah.
um, mold that putting yourself out there doesn't immediately align with that. It's something I myself have struggled with. So I think for anyone listening, that's super helpful. Like, you can just make a new account and maybe even block a couple of your friends who will find you and just start, right.
Yeah.
um,
Oh,
and
but actually, I want to add something on this.
Yeah.
because I was thinking about making a new account because I was also talking to a friend and he was like, "Oh yeah, you should start a personal brand and oh yeah, we'll just make a new account and stuff and we'll keep it separate and stuff." And I was thinking like, okay, do I want a personal brand or no? And I was like, yes, okay. What is a personal brand? It's personal, right? So for me, it's like I have I have all my school friends like still on this. I was like exaggerating when I said no one knows about this because all of my school friends from high school and stuff, they see this still. And I was like, I made the conscious decision not to make a new account because this is part of me, you know? Like if I were to make a new account for this, I would like sort of part of me trying still to hide from those gazes and stuff. But if you're like really confident in what you do and if you found your true self, then it doesn't matter who sees it, you know, because it's you.
I love that. On the topic of sort of experimenting while you're putting yourself out there, um, I think one thing that has really clicked for you is that you found your format. I think in some ways, at least over the last few weeks, from what I've seen. What was that like? Like, was it just one of those things where you just tried something out and you found that hey, this comes naturally to me to create, and it kind of seems to be working also, or did you put more thought into it, or was it one of your experiments that worked out and you've stuck with it?
To be honest, behind every single thing like video that I've created up until today, there's probably not a single thought behind it. Like I haven't thought anything through. It
Right.
might sound stupid or silly or people are gonna think, oh my god, she needs a system and stuff. No, I don't. Like I genuinely every single thing that I created is something that I need. You know, like I'm giving it to myself and it's a form of self-expression. So I started out with talking, but I always wanted, I always knew, I don't know how, but I always knew I wanted this format, like not the long side, but the
Landscape. Yep.
yeah, landscape, because I thought it was kind of cinematic and cool. But other than that, I just I went with the flow, you know. Some things like day three started to go viral completely and then stuff happened and I was just like every time I would sit for 10 minutes. I would stare at the corner of my like literally you can see here. I was staring at this corner of my wall. I was sitting here, blank space, and I was just what do I feel today? And then I create what I feel.
I love that.
Yeah.
And what make you talk a lot about, I think mindset, intuition is something like a theme that you've come back to. What what from your personal life do you draw to talk about this? Because the truth is that when we're extremely multidimensional. Like people are just very multidimensional. You have like an infinite number of things that are happening in your life at any given point, and your mind is always racing. And so, how do you come back to these themes of like growth? Growth over comfort is sort of become sort of your tagline. Um, I think it's on your bio for sure. But like these themes of growth and intuition and success, and how do you keep coming back to these topics? Do you think is there like an aspect of I feel more strongly about these, or do you think these will perform well, or is it a combination of both? I'm just trying to get into your sort of head in terms of how do you nail down on a daily basis that this is what I want to talk about, and this is the message I want to give through my video today.
Well, as I was mentioning earlier, like every single thing that I create, it's not I have never ever in my head thought like will this perform or how will people think about it? How will they see it? No, I always how can I it's so hard to explain, right? But how can I explain it? I always thought that I love to make those videos, and the message is always something I am struggling with today. So for all of you watching this later, like now you've heard this. Like if you ever see me talking about whatever in the future, you will know. Okay, Gloria is struggling with that today. So and it's always like that, you know. Like I think the reason why it performs well and why so many people are feeling connected is because like we're all like this, we're all consciousness, right? We're all like one. And I think we all keep experiencing like the same things. We're all like on this spiritual beings having a human experience on this earth and stuff. So I think that's the reason why it resonates. Like if it resonates for me, then it will resonate for other people. And yeah, I think that's it.
I love that. And I've also been a huge fan of the fact that, firstly, I think that I've always found when I'm online, like someone from across the world is saying something that I deeply resonate with, and I'm always, I think one thing I like about just being online is it just always amazes me how much we have in common, and like down to like detailed specific experiences, how much we have in common, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think what you do is probably one of the best ways to go about it, where you're creating for yourself and you're just counting on the fact that I know there's more like me who are going to identify with me, which is awesome. What do you think is has been your biggest learning from day one to what day are you on, by the way?
I am, it's currently day 34. Yeah.
Nice. Have you done your video for today? Or is that going to be after this?
Not yet.
Okay. Do you know what you're going to speak about?
What?
Do you know what you're going to speak about after in today's video?
Uh, no. I've had some thoughts yesterday about it, like some things that I'm currently experiencing, but no, it will
Okay.
come like spontaneously to me.
Okay, interesting. Well,
Yeah.
my question was what is your biggest learning so far? So let's say 30, 34 days of creating.
I think my biggest learning is to not get caught up in the numbers, to not focus on numbers because I don't. But I think it's very easy to get caught up in the numbers because I've had one video with, like, we're almost at 2 million views and it got me like overnight 1,000 followers more, like that. And I was like, what the hell? Where are these people coming from? Like, why is my phone blowing up? I don't know what's happening. And for me, like, it never was an issue. But I think that is a learning that very many people struggle with, you know, like thinking, okay, like being in dependent on the numbers, like depend on the numbers, you know. But I also think that this is for the very reason why my account grows, because I am not focusing on it, you know, and people feel it. They feel that authenticity.
Is that hard for you to do? Because naturally, when you start creating, when you get a sudden surge of followers like you have, you do tend to celebrate that positive sort of upliftment in your stats, right? So on one hand, you do deep down that validation does feel good, and you do celebrate that. But then, so the only thing we're trying to compartmentalize here is that hey, if that's not happening, that's fine. I just got to keep going. So is that something you find difficult to do, or is that like it does it not bother you at all? Like it's easy to not look at the numbers at all.
It doesn't bother me at all. I'm gonna be honest with you. If this is like if this happened like a year, two, three before, I would have not be able to sustain it. You know, I would be so dependent on the numbers. I was like, oh my God. And I would put all my self-worth on these follows. Like that wouldn't have worked. So I think that's also the reason why it's coming to me now because I'm ready, you know, like I'm showing the world or the universe or whatever you want to call it, that I'm internally ready for it. And I think that's the most important thing because it's cool if you have followers. It's cool if you like. I have had the best conversations in my comments and meeting so many lovely people and all. It's been amazing. But it always comes from a place from within, you know? Like even if I like God bless, but even if I had minus 10K followers tomorrow, like I wouldn't care because I still love making these videos, right? So it doesn't change the way that I make the videos, or it doesn't change the way that I just genuinely enjoy doing it, you know? Like, yeah.
What was your expectation? What did you think would happen when you started day one? Did you see anything happening at the end of 30 days, 50 days?
No, not at all. Not at all. I've had um I've had one video before. I posted it in August 25, I suppose. And it went viral. Like right now it's about 1 million views. And that was the first time that anything went viral for me. And that was like the first glimpse of like I have seen, okay, it is possible. Like something is possible, you know? Because before I was like, well, I kid you not, like 500 followers was the world for me. You know, like I was thinking, like, like I will never reach 500 followers. And I reached 1K the first time. And I was like crying that as I was like, what is happening? You know? And I would like, I think even today today is the day to celebrate because today we're gonna hit 10K, I think. But it's like, yeah, it's cool, but it doesn't like it doesn't, you know, like it doesn't stir up any emotions like right now. So I think I missed the point. What were you saying?
No, that's fine. I was just asking if you had any expectation when you began, and I got your
No.
answer. I didn't. Yeah. Hopefully you'll hit 10K today, and we'll celebrate on that. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're on, I can show you. Yeah, we're on 9,700 right now, so
That's awesome.
yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Um, I think one thing that I keep wondering when I look at your videos is your take on, like, very tactically speaking. I'm talking about like things like your hooks and visuals and things like that, like very tactical um, video making process. Why do you think, is there something in that process or something, like, have you identified something that has been the reason your videos work? Like, I'm not talking about how you feel when you're creating, right? Because that's not something maybe everybody can emulate immediately about the way you ideate a concept. But when you look at your video from start to end, what do you think works in them?
I think it's a bunch of things. First, they're short. They're not like 10,000 minutes of speaking until I don't know what. It's a short message. Because people nowadays, they tend to scroll endlessly and they have an attention span of, I don't know, a walnut or something. So they will scroll within the first 2 seconds if it isn't interesting. And I just really, how I do my videos is really, it's again, we're coming always back to this topic, but I think like what would make me stop scrolling, or what would resonate with me, what would make me want to look more deeply into this topic or stuff. And I've never been a fan of like exaggerating things, or like I always like to keep things like short and simple, you know, so people don't have to like think too much and stuff, like interpret in, how do you say, in,
Interpret. Yeah.
interpret
Yeah.
a lot of things in it. So I really like to, I love these videos where you scroll and then some video just, it like hits you with a hammer, you know, and you have like that click moment and it makes you put down your phone or something. So I think that's why I make those videos like I do them. Yeah.
Nice. Do you have a creator that you particularly like? Watch it like videos of?
Mm, I have one that I always admired. Like he made me really put my phone down, and I really love it. But wait, let me check it out because I forgot his name. It's JB Copeland. Do you know him?
Yeah, yeah, I've come across him, yes.
I've come across this guy like when he had 2,000 followers. He's like at 1.8 million. And that was like 3, 4 years ago. And he was just so, I don't know, he inspired me. So it's, I think, like some sort of his spirit, like, goes into my videos as well. Yeah.
That's awesome. Have you got any fan messages yet?
Every day, always, they always text me like, oh my God, the, what can I say? Like the most beautiful messages are those who say like, you really made my day, or you really gave me a click moment, or you really inspired me to take action on this and this, and I love it. Yeah.
That's nice. What's the plan from here? Because so many creators. So I worked in a creative agency, right? Right before I quit my job, to do my own thing, and so there was we essentially worked, or at least I came across two distinct kinds of creators. There was one who had an entire plan for their lives spanned out, where where they knew exactly what business they wanted to do, they knew exactly how they wanted to make money, they wanted to know what kind of work they wanted to be doing, and then they would work backwards from there in order to create, to get attention and create a brand, and that feeds the rest of the plan. And on the other hand, we had creators who would start and they would do exactly what they were good at doing. They'd create, and then they would come to a point where they would be as sometimes as high as 500K, a million followers, but no plan after that, where it's they're sitting on all this attention and they're wondering what to do with it. And so then there was one part of that business was to then help them monetize that audience. Where do you sit on this spectrum? Do you have a plan of any sorts, or are you just doing it and just letting it unfold right before you?
To be honest, I don't have a plan. No, I don't. Not at all. I think it is good to have a plan. I think it's good to have a clear direction. And right now that it's getting bigger and stuff, I'm having some, like thoughts about it, and I'm thinking about it. Okay, what can this potentially become, or what can I do with it? Um, but I also like I have this very strong belief that everything always works out the way that I resonate, like on the level of my energies. So it's like I have no, I'm not worried at all that it won't work out because it will. But I've always been like that in my whole life. Like I never had a plan because so you can plan everything and you can say like, okay, I'm gonna do this, 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 and you can have plan out every single day for the rest of your life, basically. And then something small, something minor happens, and everything is gonna be turned around again. So no, I don't have a plan, not yet.
Okay, awesome. I mean, personally, I don't think that's a bad thing at all because I've firsthand seen so many creators who don't. But you have already built such leverage that then you're able to um, figure out the right people to talk to, figure out the right resources together, and then you're on your way to making something really tangible out of it. And so I personally don't believe there's a right way to do it, but I am curious when you start out, when you're relatively very early in the whole journey, has your mind gone there yet? And I'm sure it will at some point, but it's just interesting to know, I guess.
Yeah.
One thing that I keep wondering is that your themes, and even when I'm talking to you right now, and even the initial conversation that we had, I can tell that you are someone who counts on the intangibles a lot when you're doing things like you just your faith in things that you believe in are strong. You count on intuition. You count on spontaneity when you're trying to bring your most creative self out. But also you have a psychology background which is extremely science driven, and so I'm wondering, how do you have you found like I'm pretty certain in terms of what I've learned over the years that everything that we feel is intangible, that it you can draw it down to science very very tangibly. But I'm just thinking, have you come to that path yet? But when your academic background and is so sort of science based, do you have you tied the knot between the two, and are you able to trace everything back to um, like tangible science, or do you still operate a lot on how you feel?
Well, first of all, I just had to Google the word intangible because I didn't know what it meant.
That's fine.
um, yeah, so the question is like, can you repeat the question? Like
Yeah,
shortly, just three words or a
when you
sentence?
believe in something, or when you put your faith into something, when you like even now when you said that I know it's going to work out, do you do you trace that back to like hard science, or logic or rational, or do you just operate on just belief that, hey, I know it's going to work out and it's going to work out?
That's a cool question. I like it. Um, the thing is, our thoughts, for example, if you take our brain and our thoughts and emotions, there's something tangible. Is that the right word?
Yeah, yeah.
Like materialistic, right? It's physical. It's physical. So, what I've come to observe is that your thoughts, they're like every thought, every emotion is like a chemical. I've studied neuroscience, like those neuro brain waves and stuff. It's all physical. So they all have certain, how do you say, all have a certain vibration, energy levels. They all have an impact on your surrounding because, like, I don't know, if you were to take this water bottle and I stir it up, or like this is my coffee and I stir it up with my spoon, like the water is getting like frizzy and stuff. And this is exactly how your thoughts interfere with your surroundings. Like the spoon stirring up your coffee, for example, like the coffee being your surroundings, the spoon being your thoughts. So, like, this is merely, it's just physics basically, because I know that whatever I think will act out on my surroundings and whatever I feel as well. So if I know that I cannot fail and I know that everything works out, reality has no other way but to bend around my thoughts, you know? This is not some woo woo shit or, like hocus pocus stuff. This is physics. It's a fact.
I love that. Do the people around you in your life, family, friends, whoever you hang out with, do they perceive you as overly optimistic, or do they just perceive you as just a generally positive person?
I think they do perceive me as overly optimistic. Yeah. I've never, I, Like back in the days, I've been struggling a lot. I, um, I I never have been like especially an optimistic person, like in high school and stuff. But I think now they do, and I think it's like when I found out about all these things, like how your thoughts shape your reality and stuff. Then I became that way, and some people do understand, but most of them don't. So I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. The reason I ask is because I sometimes feel myself being the same way, where I'm borderline delusional about a few things, and I struggle so hard to articulate it to the people around me to make them get it, um, and and so I don't struggle anymore because I've just given up. But it's something that I've had a it's been a recurring theme in my life where the people around me don't get what I'm up to and the way I think, and so I was just wondering if you've had the same experience, and then from what I'm hearing, you have, which is super interesting. I think I want to take a step back to your background in the Swiss Armed Forces. I want to know because you've gone from in I think a little over a year, you've gone from soldier to drill sergeant to lieutenant to first lieutenant, and I want to know what that experience was like and what you took away from that experience. And I also want to learn a little bit about just how the Swiss Armed Forces operate because I know nothing about it.
Did I tell you about it? Or how did you. Did I tell you?
No, I did my research.
How did you know? Okay, that's crazy, man. That's really crazy. Yeah, I was like about 2 years. I was there. Initially, I wanted to go because university has got me depressed. Like this everyday life of just going to university and studying for 8 hours and going to sleep and then doing it all over again. And I always wanted to become a fighter pilot, if that's the right terms. So that was initially why I went to the army and I decided to enroll. Um, and initially it was planned that I would only stay there for 3 months. It's like those 3 months, it's 18 weeks of, just the basic school. So after those 3 months, I was like, I I I had this feeling of this challenge. It was like a whole new environment. It was with people I've never seen before, and I would say it was the best time of my life, and also at the same time the worst time of my life, because after those 18 weeks, you already said it, like I did more of those, how do you say, like I became drill sergeant and then lieutenant and all those things, and it was all connected with many exams, many tests, and like kind of, like they just want to break the people and they want to sort out the weak ones and stuff, all that stuff. And I went through all of it, and it was really, really bad. And what always has driven me is this pain. I don't know if this sounds a little bit weird, but I feel alive, most alive, when I'm in pain. Because the worst thing that I can imagine is a life of like mediocrity or a life of like not feeling at all, and having this everyday and office job and whatever. So I really always, like, pain has always acted like a magnet for me. I was like, oh my god, I want to get in this situation. I want to be broken so I can be stronger. Like, I can come back stronger, and I want to learn stuff. And it just made me feel alive. So that's why I stayed. That's why I went through it. And every time right now, like when I'm having a hard time, sometimes I think back and I use these memories as fuel because I know, like, I have done this, so I can do that, Like, yeah.
That's awesome. Um, do you tend to, because you said that, I mean, I can tell that you're ambitious and you just said that you don't like mediocrity. Are you the kind of person who also pushes the people around you to like do more?
Yeah, I am. But not everybody likes it. Because sometimes I remember back in the days, like my best friend, She always wanted to start running, but she was never particularly like fit and never did anything. And I was always trying to push her, but she did. I was like, let's go on a run and stuff, and she was like, no, leave me alone. And we kind of bumped heads a few times because of that, but yeah, that's it, right?
And so, where do you stand on that? Because I'm I used to be that kind of person as well, but I've struggled with this concept of should you push people to always do more, including myself sometimes, versus there's a completely different school of thought that says that, hey, if someone's happy being the most mediocre version of themselves, also if they're happy, then that's good enough. And so I've struggled with the two, and now I've come to a point where I don't really tell people, like I don't really voice my opinion on anything. Like I have people really close to me who have I, f- I feel like unlimited potential to do really good things, but they don't feel the need to sort of push and explore that. And before I used to be the kind of person who would do that, and now I just let them be because they are happy. Um, where do you stand on that? Like, have you given up, or are you like, do you still try?
Mm, to be honest, I'm not doing it as I used to. Like I don't push people the way I used to, because it's like the same that you said, like you can't you can always, there's this saying in Germany, I don't know if you know it, like you can always bring a horse to the water, but it has to drink itself. You can't drink for it. So you can always show people the way, but you can never do it for them, and you can never push someone if he or she really doesn't want to do it. So what I'm doing right now, or like how I see it, is like we also had this in the army. This one, it was like our slang sentence. It's called exemplo ducemus. It means, I think it's Latin. It means leading by example. That's what it means. So what I've come, like for me, what I've come to terms with is that I will go my way. I will try to become the single best version that I can of myself. And I will try to outmax every single aspect in my life, it being physically or financially or mentally, whatever. And whoever gets inspired and whoever wants to run with me, they're free to do so. Like, I appreciate it. But if they don't, they don't.
I love that. I think that's one of the most beneficial things of putting yourself out there online, because so often we're limited to the people we are around physically, and sometimes they just don't align with the frequency that we're operating on, or they don't. Our thoughts, philosophies don't align. But somehow, when you go online, you just find your tribe, and it just makes you feel a little less cuckoo. That hey, I'm not crazy here, and there are people who identify with me as well. Because I've personally experienced that, not at scale, not at the scale that you and so many others have, but even when I do it even a little bit, I always find that hey, there are people out there who feel like me, think like me, and so I'm not totally crazy, which is great. Which is great. Um, how hard has it been to keep up the streak, or not at all because you love it?
Not at all. It doesn't. It's always like, I always get comments on it. Like, oh my God, you're so consistent. How can you keep it up and stuff? And I'm like, dude, how can you not? If there is something that you love, it's for me, making these videos is like breathing or sipping my coffee. Like, it doesn't require any sort of energy because, like, actually, it gives me energy. If I'm having a bad day, then that's one more reason why I do it, because every time after I film a video, I'm like smiling brightest. I'm like happy again. The world is okay again. So no, it doesn't. It's not hard.
That's, I think you're one of the lucky ones in that case because I know so many people who want to create every day, but sometimes it's just really hard in terms of how we feel. Like we've just had a really bad day, and then you have to put yourself on camera and smile and say something, which is absurdly hard when you've had a really bad day. Have you experienced that as well, or is it just smooth sailing all throughout?
Yes, I've experienced that as well. But the cool thing is, and I think few people really understand it, but I've also experienced this in like especially business. Like I've been doing some like marketing stuff for over a year now. And also there's been days where I'm feeling so down, and but I have to speak on this team call, or I have to like jump on this call with a prospect or something, and I really didn't want to do it. It was like, no, I have no energy. But the thing is, most of the time, the things that you think you don't have energy for are the things that give you the energy. Like it's the same with when I don't feel like going to the gym, I don't feel like working out. These are always the sessions that end up being the best, you know? And it's always these things that you think you don't want to do it because you don't have the energy that actually end up giving you the energy that you lack. So interesting.
Yeah. What made you choose psychology?
This is not gonna, people are not gonna take me seriously after this podcast. So basically, how did I choose psychology? Okay. First of all, it's like an interesting topic, and I love I just love observing people. I love how the mind works. I love learning about the mind, and that's also why I studied neuroscience as a minor, like in a university. But basically, I had like for me, wait, I need to like start over. Um, like my family always told me you need to get a degree. You need to be good in high school. You need to get good grades, and then the doors will open. So I followed this path not knowing it better, not knowing what other options I could have. And I at this time I had I I think six other options for university. It was biology, it was sports, it was I don't even remember now. It was like medicine and three others and psychology. So I took six of them. I wrote it down. I gave them a number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I roll the dice, because the dice has six. And so that's how I studied psychology.
That is going to be the craziest way to choose a degree. That is insane. But yeah, I think two things. One is that the fact that you said nobody's going to take me seriously after this podcast. I think that's what's really great about you, and that a lot of people. The point that a lot of people miss is that when you're just yourself, people just tend to relate to you, and it's your truth. As crazy as it is to roll the literally roll the dice on a degree. Um, but yeah, that's your truth, and I've I've also been, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've always had this belief that, I've grown up, like we have are growing up in a generation like with friends and peers and around the world who take most of them take this traditional education path of like getting a degree, and they some a minor sort of minority of them drop out and do whatever they want to, but the rest of them tend to go through it, not enjoying it extremely, like very much, and also some mostly a degree doesn't lead to like changing your life now. It's like the bare minimum of formal education at this point. Um, but a lot of people sort of, because of that, a lot of people tend to just regret about the fact that, hey, I wasted so much time in university or it didn't really do me any good. But I've always had a contrary thought, which is that I don't think when you spend so much time towards anything, it could be anything, not just a degree, I think it ends up being useful in one way or the other. Not life changing, but not also not worth crying over for the next rest of your sort of young adult life. Do you find that your education, however, um, not passionate or maybe passionate now, I'm not sure, but do you think it has still been useful, or if you had a kid tomorrow, you're just like not worth it?
I think everything you experience in life is somehow useful because every situation that you end up with or end up in has a purpose of teaching you something or putting you in a position that later benefits you or something. I don't know. So I would not say it wasn't useful. Of course it was. I met people. I've got to see the University of Bern is beautiful from the inside. It's like these big buildings and stuff, and I enjoyed it, like all those small things about it. And I'm sure that it will benefit me also in the future. Maybe I don't know yet how, in what sense. Maybe it's some connection I've made back then. Maybe it's one little thing that I learned in some of the classes. I don't know. But I think everything has a purpose and everything. And to be fair, like I want to say this because maybe some people will like interpret,
Yeah.
interpret this a little bit wrongly because I'm not saying education is bad. Like university and school and high school and all of those things, they taught me a lot of stuff, and it was really necessary and really good. And if you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever, and that is your purpose and your passion, then you should absolutely crush that degree. Like that's a cool thing. But like for me it wasn't, so but yeah.
Do your parents know about your content side of things?
No. Um, I've never had much connection to my parents. So like at a young age, I lost my mom, then I lost connection to my dad. I didn't speak to him for like 10 years or something. I grew up with my aunt, and she was always the person telling me you need to get this degree and stuff. So no, they do not know about it. I hope, well, I don't care if they found out, but I don't think that they would understand it right away, like why I do what I do, but that's also okay. So, yeah.
I've often experienced that the people sometimes around us who are our biggest well-wishers tend to give us advice that just doesn't align with our goals at all. Is that something you've experienced as well?
Yes. Yes, at home, especially at home, because and I'm like, how can I explain this? Back in the days, I never understood why they would pressure me in this direction, why they say you need to get this degree and you need to do this and this and this. And I never understood it. And I was like, why do you want to like pressure me to do this? But today I know better because I understand it. Like, for example, my aunt and my family members, they had a totally different life. They grew up totally different than us. It's like, it's a whole different world. So I understand why they act like they do and why they believe what they do. It's not a bad thing because I think eventually, like, I really believe nobody in this world is trying to push you in a bad direction. They all want the best for you. But the thing is, people always act, the way they act is always a reflection of what is within themselves. It has nothing to do with you, you know? So people always try to pro- project, I don't know, they always try to put their inner reflection onto you. That's always what happens. So it's like once you understand this, like you can't even be mad about it because it's like that's just how they feel and what's right for them. It's not for you, you know?
Tactically, what do you do when that happens, right? Because so many times it's very hard to just completely build a world around opinions that are against what you want to do, and so it takes an immense level of self belief to just ignore everyone who seem wiser, older, well wishers, and and then to keep going and try doing what you want to do. And I know that so many of people who are, in similar stages as we are in life go through this because, like you said, we are growing up in a different world, and people give advice based on their experiences and the world they live in and lived in and their worldviews. And so, what's something tactical that you can say to someone going through that, where the advice they're getting is completely against what they believe they should be doing or want to do? And so, what do you tell them on how to stay the path and believe in themselves?
That's a hard one. That's a really hard one because I know many people, they they're like trapped. They can't just escape it like at home, especially young people. Like they can't just leave home because like what are they gonna do? It was the same for me, actually. I was feeling trapped for a long, long, long time and I couldn't leave home and I was suppressing everything and I was so far away from myself that I didn't even know who I was. And I would say to this day still don't really, but I'm like discovering it right now, so it's good. But I think the one thing, or yeah, the one thing that I would give people like for not advice, but like for my own experiences is just to, it's better to make mistakes that you have chosen yourself than to have success that you did not choose for yourself. Because firstly, successful days or like success in general, it doesn't really teach you as much as failures and mistakes. And secondly, the best thing that you can do is choose a path, then realize it was completely wrong and you messed up totally. You learn from it and then you choose another path. That's the best thing that you can do. And I think most of the people, there are like a few people, maybe like very, very few, that can learn from mistakes from others. Like they see, okay, he has done this, maybe I will do differently. But for the majority of people, y'all just need to make your mistakes yourself. Like you need to go through it and you need to feel it, like that's that's what it was for me. So even though like my aunt told me, don't do that because you're gonna end up like this, and I was like, I'm gonna do it either way. And I exactly ended up like she said it. And I was like, okay, she was right, but at least I figured it out myself. And it taught me something that some, like, I had to go through it. So, yeah.
I think it's a spectrum where I've actually had this same approach to things, and I then I realized that I did it myself over so many times and figured, hey, mom was right, dad was right, that guy was right too. And so now I've had this hypothesis, a sort of philosophy of, hey, conventional wisdom is the only thing that you can't exploit once someone is not there. As in, if I have to learn something from you, the only time I can do that is when you're around to tell me, and so I should pay more heed to it. And I think when I say it's a spectrum, I feel like that's one end of the spectrum where I'm just trying to take everyone, like I'm trying to pay heed to the advice you're giving me. But but the very other end of the spectrum, which is not good either, is where you let everyone's opinion sort of lead you to inaction. And I think what you're saying is don't be there for sure. And if you have any doubts, just act upon it and find out for yourself, because that's 100 times better than just not doing anything at all. And yeah, I think it's a tough one. This subject is like a toughie for me as well, because I'm constantly torn between here. I know you're like a 50-year-old whoever who's been through where I am, so there must be some truth to it. But the nuance, like so much of nuance of my life, is lost when you give me advice, and so I'm constantly trying to maintain that balance. What's something you've learned about yourself after you've started creating content that maybe you didn't know in the past?
Self-worth. That's what I learned. Because I was going on a walk yesterday. I was on a walk. I was outside, and that's something that hit me really deep. It's kind of the answer to your questions a little bit, but I also, I think not very many people notice, but I also started a YouTube channel like 2 days ago or something. I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but we'll see. Um, but what I've learned is really just that I have been putting myself down for years, completely. And I've completely ignored my self-worth. Like I was walking through life like this, like I don't know, man. I'm not completely ignorant. And I've like, how do you say this? Like some part of me that has always been there, but I've never seen, is coming to life in these videos. And this is like a way to discover myself. And it made me realize that, oh, maybe you're not so shit like you thought you were. Like maybe you're not such a dumbass like you thought you were. Maybe you can do something. Maybe you're capable of actually achieving something. And this is like, I think I can say that to everyone. Like if you've ever thought about posting, just do it, man, because you will see yourself in a other perspective. You will see yourself from a whole different point of view, and you will discover yourself more deeply because of that. And that's the best thing ever.
What do you
Yeah.
think of the content that you consume? Because I'm assuming you do as well. Maybe more than you create at the moment. What does the landscape look like on your mobile phone? Do you find more people like you, or do you just find like completely random people from across the world?
You mean like my For You page? Or what do you mean? My Explore page on Instagram?
Yeah, yeah, any of those. Do you find that you find people that are more in alignment with what you are saying and what you believe, or is it just like super random and then something clicks?
Mm, I'm just going through my Explore page. No, well, sometimes it's random like this. No, I'm not gonna show it. It's like a small dog getting bath or something. I don't know. But most of the time, it's it's very in alignment of what what I stand for, or what my worth is. Like here, it's something like, "Oh, you're spiritual, okay." And some memes. I love memes, but I'm I'm not consuming them as much as I used to. Like, I don't know, some. Okay, that's very random actually, but never mind. Um, but the thing is, I'm very selective with what I see. And I'm very, very selective with Instagram as well, because firstly, I don't consume much. I don't scroll I wouldn't say at all, but not much. And always when I see something that's like giving me this inner tension or something that's not giving me inner peace, I directly eliminate it. Because like what you see on Instagram, also on social media and TikTok especially, it always goes direct to your unconscious, right? Like it's always unconscious doesn't have a filter. It's like SpongeBob. It's like a sponge. It soaks everything up. So you need to be very selective with what you see, and that's what I do with my For You and Explore page as well. So I'm radically cutting out everything that's not making me feel good and worthy.
What does that look like? You mentioned self-worth has been your biggest sort of takeaway since you started.
Yeah.
What if I knew you before that, where you felt like you didn't have any, and if I know you now, what is the biggest change I'm seeing in like in terms of actual behavior?
How did I change in behavior?
Yeah, as in what does not having self-worth and then having self-worth or recognizing it, what does that translate to in day-to-day behavior?
Mm, I can tell you how I was behaving back then when I didn't have that much of self-worth. So it was like I was constantly chasing validation, constantly being dependent on other people's opinions. And that translated into, like people pleasing, putting myself behind, uh, like, for example, small things like staying awake just to respond to a text message. Whereas nowadays, I have I have a set timer, and whoever is like 1 minute late to that timer, like that's my sleep time. I don't respond. I don't care because, and that's like one example. Or constantly thinking what I say, how I say it, um, always with the intention of making a good impression and getting people to like me. And I've always had this syndrome of people pleasing, and also like I would find validation and self-worth in feeling wanted. So I would constantly do things for people, and I don't know, like, send them gifts or do them a favor, even though I was feeling tired, or even though I was not feeling like it, or I should have done something else. And this is like this is totally abandoning who you are as a person. This is totally like you're not in alignment with who you are. So that was it, like, for me. Until today, I'm still struggling, with it, from time to time. But I've come to observe it, and I know when I know when I'm like people pleasing, and I go like, stupid man, stop it, and then I stop it, and then that's okay. But yeah, I think that's just something a lot of people also struggle with. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the irony is that, which a lot of people sometimes don't realize, is that the people who are creating online are actually those who are least attached to the validation, because the fact that they've been able to cross that sort of barrier and start creating has meant that they've gone through this path of I just don't care what people say anymore. So and a lot of people tend to think the opposite, where if you're creating, you must be wanting attention, and like you must be looking for validation. But it's quite the opposite. You don't start creating until you think you need validation because you're so scared of the judgment, and now you've crossed that barrier. So now you're just like okay to put yourself out there. And I didn't realize until I started doing this myself, where my first video, I don't have many still. That's just a time thing though. But my first video took me so long. I was just so scared of what people would say if someone saw, and now I'm totally detached. Like something could be seen by nobody, by a million people. It could be cringe or not. I'm okay, and I think that's just such a misconception that spectators tend to have of like, hey, probably need some validation, but it's the opposite. You don't anymore, and so you're comfortable putting yourself out there. And I want to talk a little bit about your routine on a day-to-day basis in terms of creating, because I think this is a two-parter. I want to know what if you have a routine for creating content of like, hey, X, like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, whatever, I'm going to sit and do this. And then I also want to know, based on that, if you think that routine kills creativity, because I've heard that before, or do you just let it come to you spontaneously?
Yes, so I don't have a routine for it. As I said, like if you I can explain to you like how little effort it takes to do a video for me is like I was what was it? Like every time I get a thought, I immediately record it. And it's always like, I don't know, lying in bed or doing my work or whatever, being outside. I get a thought, okay, I'm gonna record it 5 minutes, then I'm gonna edit it 5 minutes, and then I'm gonna, I don't know, man, like write a caption 5 minutes. So total like 15 minutes, and then I press post, and that's it. So I don't really need a routine for that, to be honest. Like, that's just that's just something I do, like taking a walk or stuff like that. And I think routine is good if you have like a structure, because I find myself often, if I have unstructured days, I find myself losing inspiration or losing like that drive. If I have a structured day, then it gives me energy. You know, but routine, I think long term it kills your creativity. It kind of drains that, because I used to go to school every single day and it was always the same thing. So that was like a routine, right? It's not the same as a structure. It was a routine. It was always the same thing and it really drained me. I was like depressed as you can't even imagine. And then I started to always take a different path to school. For example, like every morning I just took a different path, or like I always did something a little bit differently. And that's what I did, what I do until this day. It's like I never do things every day the exact same way. Like sometimes I get up and then I do my workout. Or sometimes I get up, I first brush my teeth and then I do my workout. Or it's always like a little bit different, because that's what keeps you aware. If you always have those same like, how do you say, like the same program running, you're becoming unaware, and that's what kills everything in your life. So you need to make sure that you're aware, and that's how I do it. Like I always do things a little bit differently. So yeah.
That's nice. I want to get like super specific now in terms of what you're doing as a creator. Have you looked at other platforms?
Like not Instagram, or what do you mean?
Yeah, as in right now you're growing on Instagram, you've got some momentum. Have you looked at doing the same on other platforms, growing a presence?
Yeah, I was thinking of YouTube. Some of my friends told me I should start TikTok. I did start TikTok, but not in the same way. Like I'm not constantly posting on there. Because I don't really feel like every time I open TikTok, I feel like a boomer. Like I don't get it. I don't get this app. So, but I was thinking of YouTube. Yeah.
I think you should do TikTok as well because it's just like you just have to repost the same thing, nothing to lose, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and I think there is an audience for what you're creating on TikTok as well. That'd be interesting to see. Do you know, have you, and if you're open to sharing, do you know, because you've gone from extremely snappy short form, what we in marketing call top of funnel, right? Like very like appeals to a lot of people. That's been sort of the content you've been creating. Do you know and have you thought about what YouTube is going to be like and what kind of content you're going to put on there?
Yeah, YouTube is going to be like Instagram, but more in depth. So on YouTube, I want to post more videos that are a little bit longer, like 5 minutes or something, but it's gonna be basically the same thing. So it's like it's just my expression of myself, but on YouTube I can take a little bit longer, I can explain a little bit more. And the Instagram is just like this is a thought and this is an impulse and in your face and stuff. And YouTube is more like, okay, I invite people like, come on in, take a seat and look at my brain, like see how I view the world and then do whatever you want with it.
I love that. And
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that as well because YouTube is where people, you build so much more trust because it's a matter of how much time they spend with you, right? And so it takes about 130-second videos to gain the same amount of trust as it does in about a 5-minute YouTube video. And so it makes a lot of strategic sense. I'm glad you're doing that. Um, I think final few questions. Let's say if I was just going to role play here and say I was someone who has something to say, right? I have some expertise, I have thoughts that I want to share, and I have absolutely zero knowledge about creating online. I'm not very exposed to that world, and someone just came and told me, "Here, there's something you should try out," and so now I'm thinking about it. What would you say to someone like me in that case? Of what if you had to boil it down to two or three pieces of it, like advice of to get started and get momentum? What would that be?
That's hard because I never I never thought about it, because my my focus was never on momentum. So that's that's like really hard to answer. But I think the first thing is get your focus away from this momentum, because
I actually
because
meant momentum in terms of like doing the thing, not so much
oh,
numbers. But like,
okay.
yeah,
Well, I think first thing is to just take one mini step. Like whatever you want to do is first thing you take one step in that direction, but make it as simple and as small as possible so that your brain doesn't get like overwhelmed with it. Because naturally, if you're someone who has never posted before, you want to start, but you're like, oh my god, I have like 100 or even like 2 followers, and I don't know where to start. So your brain gets easily overwhelmed. Then I'd say, hey, like sit in your corner for 10 minutes every day. Just brainstorm a little bit, like what inspires you, what do you feel, and then write it down, and then maybe make 10-second video about it or something. No, maybe even a post. Maybe you do a carousel post or something. It's like break it down to a step of the stairs that like really doesn't, well, it should scare you a little bit, but like really doesn't overwhelm you completely. And then from this step, you take the next and the next. And then that's exactly what I did. And I think that's the only way to really build habits as well, because you cannot go from 0 to 100 in one day. So you always take like baby steps towards your your goals, your what you want to do, and then everything will fall into place.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Do you have you ever thought about the I want to make sure I word this right. We live in a largely Western media dominated world, right? And so what conventionally looks good, sounds good, is not necessarily always what that kind of media shows you, but also it is what's widely accepted. It's culturally relevant and accepted, right? What do you tell someone who doesn't who struggles with just how they look on camera, because that's just a single thing that I see so many people, like I know personally people struggle with. They're just like, hey, I have good thoughts, I have great things to say. I know I can do a good job talking, but I just don't like myself on camera. And many times it's the extension of that is I don't think people will like how I look. And what do you say to that?
Well, I think it's also about the confidence, right? Like you don't feel confident on camera because you don't like the way you look or you don't like the way you sound. Especially for me, like I've been struggling a lot with hearing my voice when I send a voice memo or something. I would never listen to it because I hate it, totally hate it the way that I sound. But the thing is, the way that you see yourself on camera is the way that people can we cut it out? Yeah, right.
It's fine.
Is the way that people perceive you, not the other way around, you know? So if you do not like yourself, how you look on camera or how you sound like, then you have a distorted self-image, not the world. So you see yourself a little bit differently than everyone else. And it's always like you can never, like your self-image will never be the same as, like the world perceives you. But the thing is, the more there's no formula, there's no hack for this or to this. Like just start recording, start pressing record button, I don't know, man, and then record yourself over and over and over again, and your self-image will naturally change. And you will change also the way you talk, you will change the way you bring your energy to life and all of that. And you gain confidence from recording. You don't, how can I explain this? People are waiting to be confident to record, but you actually gain confidence from recording. You know, like it's the other way around. So that's all I can say. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Final question.
Yeah.
If you were to cease to exist tomorrow and any of the content that you have made so far or that you made in the future is not there and you just have like one message to leave anyone who comes across your name for eternity, what's that message? Not necessarily just for creators or something like that, but if you could just leave one thing behind you and that's the only thing that you leave behind in terms of a message, what's that?
That's such a good question. Okay, one thing I would leave behind if I disappeared tomorrow, and that's the only thing that people will remember.
Yeah,
Oh my god. I would say, oh my god, there's so many things in my head right now. I would say that nothing is ever bad, nothing is ever wrong, and also nothing is ever good, and nothing is ever right. Because we always perceive the world, or you perceive the world from your brain, right? So the only thing that's giving things a value is yourself. Like you're putting a label on it. So what I would say is, can I say two things?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
One, stop putting labels on anything. Nothing is ever bad, nothing is ever good, and everything will work out right as it's meant to be. And the second is, as long as you are you, you cannot be wrong. You know, like it's a little bit counterintuitive with what I just said because I said nothing is ever wrong and nothing is ever good. But everything you do that comes from a place from who you truly are is nothing wrong because there's no way to argue with who you are, you know? So you do everything right when you are you.
I love that. Gloria, thank you so much for your time. This has been
Oh,
truly,
thank
I
you.
didn't know what to expect out of this conversation because it's episode one, but it has been truly, truly a pleasure talking to you. And thank you so much. And I hope, and I know that a lot of people are going to take away a lot of useful things from this for many more years to come, hopefully, because it's going to live on the internet forever. Thank you so much for your time.
I thank you. I think it's been a pleasure. Your podcast is gonna blow up. I know it. It's gonna be so good.